It was a warm July afternoon. A light breeze drifted off the sea and wafted through the open windows of the front parlor of the grand shingle-style cottage. The place was alive with the sounds of staff moving about as they made the final preparations. Half the town was invited, and everything was going to be perfect. Mary Margaret was beside herself in anticipation of the big event. After all, why wouldn't she be excited? She was set to marry the love of her life in only a matter of days. It was going to be the talk of the town, something people would remember for years to come. If only she had known what fate awaited her. You see, under normal circumstances, in normal places, this might have been a storybook wedding. Mary would have gotten hitched to her beloved, and they would have rode off into the sunset to live out the rest of their days in the lap of luxury, living off her inheritance. But this place is far from normal. This is a place where the seas whisper ancient secrets. This is a place where the trees have their own stories to tell. This is a place where the dead are never really gone, as long as we still talk about them. Mary Margaret lived a life of privilege. She was the daughter of a wealthy entrepreneur, and with her raven black hair, she had the striking good looks of a movie star. Her social standing was not far off. Her father's reputation as a businessman allowed her to rub elbows with some very high-profile personalities. And in Bar Harbor during the early 1900s, that meant some of the most influential people in the world. Despite this, Mary was a romantic at heart. As such, she found herself betrothed to a young man she had known for only a short while before they made the decision to tie the knot. The girl's father was ecstatic with the news and arranged to have the entire ceremony held at a friend's estate in Bar Harbor. This magnificent 21-room cottage was equipped with a beautiful ballroom, which could accommodate their most esteemed guests in comfort and luxury. Word of the marriage spread like wildfire. Before long, everyone in town was anticipating the big day, with many of the locals speculating at who may make an appearance for the event. Movie stars, business moguls, the president himself. Rumors were abound. With every passing day, the expectancy grew to a fever pitch. With only days left, the final preparations were being made. The flowers were ordered. The dress was perfect. The hall was decorated in an elaborate yet tasteful arrangement. Everything was as it should be. Mary sat in her room on the third floor, staring into her vanity mirror. The face that looked back at her was smiling, a warm and bright smile that could light up a room. She was brushing her long dark hair and imagining what the days ahead would bring. Her thoughts flitted from the reactions of her friends and guests to what the reporters would say in their write-ups for the morning papers. She thought of herself on a boat in the arms of her love, watching the sunset as they laughed and drank champagne. A knock at the door. The post had arrived. There was a letter for her, and her only. Mary Margaret took the letter from the young maid. After thanking the girl, Mary closed the door. Opening the envelope, she found the familiar letterhead of her love, causing her breath to catch in her throat. Why would he be writing her a letter now, when the wedding was in mere days? Gingerly, she unfolded the note. Her eyes scanned down the page, word by word, letter by letter, and with each sentence, the light faded a little more in them. By the final words, tears stained the paper as they cascaded down her face. Her throat burned as she choked out a sob. Her tears grew into wails of pain and anguish, which brought her staff rushing to her door. Mary didn't answer. She instead continued to cry, and after some time the attendants decided they would just have to let the young lady be until her father could be informed. Perhaps he could help the poor girl and make some sort of sense of this situation. For Mary, this was nothing but a source of anguish. The note had indeed been from her fiancé, and in the hastily written letter, he had stated in no uncertain terms that he would not be marrying her. With that, he left town and walked out of her life forever. This heartbreak was only worsened by the sheer and utter embarrassment she felt at the idea of her father and their guests learning of the news. Mary shook with anger and pain as the sobs racked her body. She collapsed into the finely made chair sitting before her vanity, weeping for what must have been hours. The fitful screams and shuddering moans of grief echoed through the halls of the house. Finally, the tide of tears began to ebb, and slowly the cries faded away. Mary raised her head, and searching the dark, her eyes found what they sought. Bathed in pale moonlight was the wedding dress. The dress she had specially made at her father's expense. The dress that was crafted from the finest materials money could buy. The dress that she was meant to wear as she took her vows. The dress that was the literal embodiment of her dreams. Now, it hung there like a ghost sent to mock and torment her, a white specter of heartbreak, embarrassment, and misery. Turns out that despite being in possession of everything a person could want, riches, youth, beauty, none of this could prepare her for the pain of a broken heart. Late in the night, one of the maids had looked out a window, sometime after midnight, and was startled to see her young mistress standing in the dooryard, under the light of the moon, staring up into the sky. She was draped in the elegant gown with the veil laid over her eyes, like a statue praying to the heavens in her solemn bliss. After her initial shock had faded, the woman had wrestled with whether or not to try and convince Mary to return inside. But ultimately, she decided against it. Perhaps all the girl needed was some space to sort things out. She was the last person to see Mary Margaret alive. Sometime later, Mary quietly slipped back inside, bare feet treading silently in the night as she made her way to the hallway closet, where the staff kept various occupational necessities. Searching in the dimly flickering candlelight, she retrieved a length of rope before retreating upstairs to her room. Her father arrived the next morning. After being informed of the girl's state, he had rushed up the stairs to her room on the 3rd floor. Knocking, he was met with nothing but silence and an uncanny sense of foreboding. Upon unlocking the door with the assistance of a few of the staff, he cautiously opened the door wide. What he found inside that room was a tragic and macabre scene that would be enough to break the mind and spirit of any man. The room was quiet and dark. Shadows shifted about the room as the father's eyes struggled to adjust. The first thing he managed to make out was the vanity. Exquisite in its design, it had been a gift to Mary on her 13th birthday. The way she had beamed when it arrived and spent hours perfecting her makeup with her mother's instruction had let him know that it was money well spent. Now, The piece of furniture sat like a somber memorial to a happier time. Next, his eyes searched the dimly lit floor, where beams of light played across fine carpets, and near to the vanity lay what appeared to be a note. Something about the way the shadows moved seemed odd, and it dawned on him that the darkness was uncharacteristic for this time of morning. Walking further into the room, Mary's father turned to face the window. There, hanging from a rope cast around a beam in the ceiling, was the body of his daughter, clad in the wedding gown he'd had made for her. A chair lay haphazardly on the floor beneath her as her feet dangled helplessly a few feet off the ground. As he stood in mute horror, his eyes made their way up her limp form to the rope around her throat, and then further to her once beautiful face, which was now a ghastly tapestry of horror. The long, beautiful hair, which she had been so proud of, draped loosely over her face, as her head hung bowed in grim acknowledgement. Her face was barely recognizable, swollen and bruised to the point it looked almost black in the feeble light of the room, which had been once a place of blissful opulence, and was now a tomb. Her eyes were red with blood as they stared dully back at the onlookers. The people who beheld Mary on that day were horrified to see that smeared upon the face of the girl who just hours before had been heard crying her eyes out was a wretched, almost uncanny smile that twisted her once immaculate countenance into something of nightmares. In the days, weeks, and months that followed, her family would grieve. She would be laid to rest in the family plot, and life would otherwise move on, while whispers of the story made their way around town. The taverns heard gossip of what may have happened on that fateful night, as people pondered what could have possibly driven the girl with a whole life ahead of her to take that final leap. Eventually, the cottage was sold off. Whether due to the financial incentives or the grisly memories attached, no one is truly sure. Either way, it would find its way into the hands of new owners, who after some remodeling, renamed the cottage to what it is now known as the Ledgelawn Inn. If you thought this was the end of our story, then I will have to inform you that you are indeed mistaken, for it is really only a small part of Mary Margaret's tale. In the years that followed, it was seen that Mary, like so many others in this place we call home, would not find the light of the other side, or the cold embrace of the void waiting for her. Somehow, Mary's spirit seems to have clung to this side of the veil, and now haunts the inn where she met her fate. The anguish and grief the young woman felt imprinted on the building and lingers on to this very day. In the darkened hallways, weeping can be heard. Shadowy specters are seen in the corner of the eye as they lurk in the darkened recesses of the historic establishment. This is relatively benign compared to what people have witnessed who dared visit Mary Margaret's personal quarters. The room is said to have a feeling as if a gloom hangs over it that engulfs all who enter the space. Strange, disembodied sounds are frequently heard, and visitors have described unexplained shadows that move in ways that don't seem natural. Even more terrifying is when Mary decides to make an appearance in all her ghastly, ethereal glory. Her apparition appears much as it did in life. Dark hair, and said to still be wearing the gown and veil she was found in. Despair is still written upon her face in a contemptible grin that peeks from underneath the cloth which covers her darkened, bloodshot eyes. This twisted smile, a mixture of forced joy and deep, burning rage, haunts the minds of those who see her and makes the blood run cold with fright. If a woman stays in the room alone, it is said that she will likely leave the guests to enjoy the room as she once had. However, if a male is present, the entity that once was Mary Margaret will become much more active and torment them by standing by their bedside, watching as they sleep. On at least one occasion, while staying in her room, a man reported an unsettling encounter with the spirit, which left him shaken to the core. After an evening out on the town, the guest and his wife retired to their room, where after some time they both fell asleep with little trouble. Late in the night, the man awoke to what he assumed was his wife crawling back under the covers with him. She must have gotten up to use the bathroom, he thought, as he began to drift back off to sleep. Suddenly, he was jolted by a freezing touch against his calf. It felt like the caress of a person's skin, as if his wife had brushed his leg with an icy cold foot. He pulled his leg away and rolled over, grumbling aloud in protest. It was then that he heard the flush of the toilet, followed seconds later by the faucet running, before his wife appeared in the muted light of the bathroom door. The man froze. Whatever had just gotten into bed with him, it wasn't his wife. The story I've shared has been repeated by scores of people. Ghost hunters, innkeepers, old fishermen stopping in town for a drink before heading home. Yet for all the retellings, one critical piece of the puzzle remains conspicuously absent. Who was Mary Margaret? In nearly every version of her legend, Mary is described as a wealthy heiress tied to the property. But the history doesn't quite cooperate. The mansion as it stands today was built in 1900 by Samuel and Fanny Bridgham, a well-connected New York family. Fanny herself, a relation of the Astors. Before them, a different residence occupied the same ground, owned by the Shannon family. And yet, in all the records, all the genealogies, all the whispered recollections of those who lived and worked here, not a single daughter, niece, or even cousin named Mary Margaret ever appears. Yet with all the reported sightings of the spectral bride over the years, I can't help but wonder, who was she? And why does her presence cling so fiercely to a house whose documented history offers no place for her? That question only grows stranger when you dig deeper into the property's past. Locals have long cast a wary eye at the shingle-style mansion as they shuffle by, and for good reason. Because while Mary may be the most famous spirit said to walk the halls of Ledgelawn, she is not alone. As was common in the era, wealthy families employed live-in servants to manage their daily needs. Houses of this stature were often designed with hidden staircases, narrow hallways, and discreet doorways, passages meant to keep the staff unseen as they moved through the home. It is in one of these hidden spaces, a cramped staircase tucked behind the kitchen, where another of the inn's most active spirits is said to reside. Her name was Catherine. According to local lore, Catherine was a young housekeeper employed around the turn of the century. She was described as beautiful, diligent, and full of life, qualities that may have drawn the attention of one of the men in the household. The details have blurred with time, but the rumor persists. A flirtation, a secret, perhaps even a scandal whispered behind closed doors. Whether the story was innocent gossip or something darker, no one can say for certain. What is known is how Catherine died. One morning, while going about her duties, she descended the narrow staircase toward the cellar to retrieve supplies. A misstep, a slip, or perhaps something else entirely. When they found her, Catherine lay crumpled at the bottom of the stairs. her glassy eyes fixed on the ceiling, her neck bent at an unnatural angle. Dead before anyone could have reached her. After that day, strange sounds began echoing from the kitchen stairwell. Soft footsteps, hushed sobs, the faint rustle of skirts brushing past the walls. Is Catherine's spirit seeking resolution after a betrayal? Or is she simply another soul drawn into whatever force seems to linger in the mansion's bones? Because I don't believe these hauntings are tied solely to the families who lived here. There is something about the property itself, something older, deeper, that seems to collect the dead. This is supported by one of the strangest reports associated with the inn. The apparition of a young boy who hides in the kitchen. He is said to be mischievous, fond of lurking in cupboards and pantries, waiting to pop out and startle unsuspecting visitors. But unlike Mary or Catherine, this child has no known connection to the Bridghams, the Shannons, the Vanderbilts, or the Astors. No record of a visiting family losing a son. No obituary that matches his description. Local historians speculate he may be tied to another nearby location. Yet for reasons unknown, his spirit gravitates toward the red, shingled mansion on Ledgelawn Avenue. Why here? Why this house? We may never truly know. But perhaps, someday, we'll share his story as well. If only to better understand what it is about this place that keeps people lingering long after they should have moved on. This has been an Acadia After Dark production. Intro music is written and performed by local Maine folk punk legends Pine Tree Riot. Background music and sound effects are courtesy of Epidemic Sound. The show is written, produced, and directed by Christian Leathers and Acadia After Dark LLC. If you enjoy the show, then do me a favor and hit the like button. If you are listening on audio platforms, then leave us a rating, as it helps the show get into the ears of more listeners like you. Finally, if you would like to support what we do, then there's a few ways that you can do so. First would be by lighting your lantern and joining us over on Patreon, where for less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get early access to ad-free episodes, digital extras, and other exclusive content only available to lantern holders. If you aren't comfortable with a monthly commitment, then you can always head on over to our merch store and grab yourself something nice. Visit AcadiaAfterDark.com for more horror from the dark places between the pines. Keep those lanterns lit and stay safe out there, hikers.